Hey everyone, I'm Natalie Decker. I'm a professional race car driver in the NASCAR series, and I'm here to share my story and show you my race shop. Let's go. I started racing when I was 9 years old. My parents got me a go-kart for my 9th birthday, and from there I was addicted to racing, and my dream was to race in NASCAR. We slowly started moving up into higher divisions and bigger divisions, and finally we made it into the NASCAR series, and now we are racing in the Xfinity series currently. We're here at Our Motorsports. This is my car that I raced at Talladega right here, and I feel so lucky and so thankful that my parents sacrificed so much to help me make my dreams come true. And through it all, I was born with rheumatoid arthritis, and at age 2 I was diagnosed, and they were there with me every step of the way, helping me feel better, making sure I would feel the best for my dreams of racing, going to school. I also played hockey. I did so many things outside of racing that they were always there for me to make sure I always felt my best and always had the right medication, came to all my doctor's appointments with me, and they really sacrificed so much for me, and it really means the world to me because I would not be here racing NASCAR if it wasn't for them. And I'm just having so much fun, so I'm here today to tell you my story, share my story, show you my race car, and answer any questions that you may have about racing, my RA, my journey, anything. I'm here to answer your questions. All the time. And it's a really neat balance that you have to get used to, and you have to remind yourself, you're seeing all your other competitors and everyone else, they're going 110% just like you are, and you have to remember, like, I have to remind myself that they don't have the autoimmune disease I have. So when I see them in the gym every day and working so hard, and sometimes I can't, I sometimes feel guilty because I'm like, I need to be working just as hard as them. But then I have to remind myself that my body is different and that I do need more rest than others. And that's so important. When your body's telling you to rest, you need to rest because that's going to make you just stronger for the next day.
Great. Thanks, Natalie. And thank you, Faith. I'm going to jump to Angela and then we'll go to Lily. So Angela, do you have what is your question? You have to unmute. Go for it.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, so Brittany and I have a question, but Brittany's gonna go ahead and start first.
Perfect.
What was your experience with methotrexate? And if it was a bad experience, how did you cope with it?
I love this question too. Okay, so it was bad and good. It did bring me to be in remission for a couple years, but I was really young and I didn't know much about the medication until I got older. And once I figured out why I felt, nauseous and I didn't want to eat, and I wasn't growing as much as all my other friends, and I was very, very skinny and little and short, and I realized that a lot of it had to do with the medication and the RA. And I didn't cope with it because I didn't understand it. But now that I do understand it, I just wish I would have known a little bit more about it to know that, like, it's medication making me feel this way. And that's why I'm always so tired or nauseous. And I would say now, if I had to go back on methotrexate, if I had to, I would have to, but I wouldn't like to, just because I remember how sick it made me feel all the time. It almost made me feel worse than my pain that I had. And that, as a child, it was so hard for me to wrap my head around, like, this medicine's making me feel sick, but it's supposed to make me feel better. And I just had to really trust my parents and my doctors and everything, because it did work so well for me. But I did not like it. That was the worst part of having RA.
Brittany can definitely relate to your answer. My question is for racing is a very individual sport and very competitive. And what was the best thing that your parents did for you to kind of parent you and be on top of your arthritis and making sure that you weren't overdoing it, but also taking a step back and letting you kind of run the show and take charge of how you felt and what you could do?
Wow, I wish my mom was here because she would love to be a part of this question. They really did a good job, but it was really communication. Like that, we just had to communicate fully to each other all the time. And I had to be really open with them on how I felt. And they did push me really hard because they knew what I was capable of doing, and they didn't want me to feel like, you know, that I couldn't do it because of my arthritis, or that I wasn't able to do all these sports that my friends were doing because I had this autoimmune disease. So they really did push me, but they didn't push me in a way that it made me feel burnt out, if that makes sense. They really just said, like, I know you can do it, but if you're not ready, then don't do it. And the thing I remember the most with my dad when it comes to racing is I remember I was about 10 years old, 11 years old. And he said, Natalie, you're ready to move up to the next step, the next level of racing. He's like, I'm going to prepare myself for you to move up to that level, but you don't have to move up if you don't feel ready. But he's like, I want you to know we are ready and we believe you're ready. And he let me make that decision on my own. And when he did that, I really found the boundaries that we had and how much they trusted me on knowing when I was going to be ready. And in that year and in that moment, everything really just started rolling and happening really nicely together, and how they were, training me and pushing me to be my best, but not pushing me too hard.
Wonderful.
Nice.
Great.
Thank you, Brittany. Thank you, Angela. Lily, we're going to come to you. What's your question?
My question is, how did you balance chasing your dreams of being a racer and handling your arthritis at the same time?
Well, today is the perfect example for that. I was done getting ready for the day, and I had absolutely no energy to even brush my hair and get dressed for the day. So I put my pajamas back on and I rested. And I rested because I didn't have anything that I truly had to do until right now, hanging out with all of you. So I made sure I didn't feel guilty in resting my body and letting myself have a relaxing day. But it does get hard sometimes because there's some days where you're not able to rest, where you do have to go and work and you do have to push through it. And when I do have those days where I don't have an option, when I do have to go to the racetrack or I do have to go do a meet and greet, I always try to make myself feel the most comfortable. So if I have to have a meeting with my engineer about the race car, I'm going to make sure we're in a comfortable setting where I can sit down and feel relaxed and not waste a lot of energy. So I just put myself in situations that are going to make sure I'm not wasting my energy throughout the day.
Natalie, that's
Thank
such
you.
great advice.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Nice
Lily.
to meet you, Lily.
Great question, Lily.
Nice to meet you.
Someone wanted you to know, Lily, that they love your Marvel posters. I just wanted you to know, someone wrote that in the chat room. So I thought the Isaacs had a great question, Isaac's family. So I know you drive a Chevrolet Camaro. I saw it in the shop when you just showed your number 23, but what kind of car do you drive off the track?
I have a Chevy truck, and it's white and it's beautiful and I love it. Up until this year, I had a Dodge, but we just switched over to Chevy and I really like it.
Awesome. Good play on the Chevy family too. Probably important driving a Chevy on the racetrack. So drive a Chevy off track. So another question came in regarding about your Phoenix and Haven. Want to know how many siblings you have, if you're an only child or you have other siblings.
I do. I have a brother and he's a little bit older than me. He lives in California and he's a model. So when we first were younger, growing up, my dad had my brother into racing and my mom had me into acting. And about 8 years later, it switched.
That is awesome. Absolutely awesome. That's great. Isabella had a really cool question. Don't forget, you can ask Natalie a question if you raise your hand as well with the reaction button. But Isabella asked, who was your role model growing up? I thought that was so interesting question.
I had a lot of different role models when I was in the sport. Because I'm in NASCAR, I had a lot of NASCAR role models. There was a girl by the name of Danica Patrick, who was a really big name in NASCAR, and I really looked up to her. And my dad and her dad used to race snowmobiles against each other, so I was really close with their family. So that felt really special to know that my parents had that relationship with the Patricks. And then as I got older, I started really realizing how strong my parents were, and my parents became my role models so fast, especially when I started getting out of high school and starting to live on my own. And I just saw the strength that they had. And I look up to them every day. I call them every day for advice on everything and anything.
That's awesome. We have a question from Megan, who's age 9, and she just wanted to know what your JA symptoms were and what joints you were affected with as well.
When I was diagnosed, it was mainly in my knees, but also my arms were locked like this. I couldn't move them any more than that. They were locked with where my elbow is. And my joint pain wasn't really horrible as a child that I remember. But once I got a little bit older, around 16, my joint pain was the worst thing in the world. It was every single joint from my hips to my knees, down to my ankles, my hands, my jaw. And I remember just like if I was sitting in a position too long and I'd have to get up and I would kind of like walk funny for a little bit because my hips would hurt. Like people wouldn't understand because they're like, she's 16, like she was only sitting for like 20 minutes. But I started to realize what the pain was like when I was a little bit older. But when I was younger, I had so many different symptoms, nausea, being tired. That is the number one thing. I'm always tired. Like that is probably the worst. And that still today is. And I've had to go get multiple different procedures done, like upper endoscopies and colonoscopies. And I've found out that there's a lot other and more autoimmune diseases that I'm getting as I get older. So I'm getting more and more symptoms every year of different things. And I would say right now, the biggest thing is fatigue and then knee pain. And I also sometimes I don't feel hungry and I just feel like I'm always full. And that's a symptom that I've been having in the past couple of years.
Thanks for sharing that so openly, Natalie. We appreciate that. That's going to help so many families and kids. I'm going to turn to Phoenix and Haven, who had great questions before on the chat. But Phoenix and Haven, I love that you raised your hand. Do you have a question?
Yes, I wanted to ask, Natalie, what do you do when you have a big flare-up right before a race?
What do I do? Okay, so there's a lot of things that go into that. I get a hold of my doctors right away and I let them know what's going on. And they're very aware that I'm a race car driver and my life is very fast paced and I can't usually put a pause on my life. No one really can anyways. So they're very good about that. And if it's something simple, like just knee pain and my knees are really swollen, she'll let me come in and I can get a cortisone shot. And that usually helps me get me through the race weekend. And then once I come home from the weekend and I push through the weekend, we then come up with a more long-term plan. But simple things that I can do myself is I like to ice my knees or even do something warm. Like we have this little heating pack I can plug in and I can put heat on them as well. And I mainly just rest and take a big break from even just walking around and doing stairs and just let my body rest. And then by the time the race comes, usually I feel a little bit better. But there's been times where I've had to race through a flare up and it's not fun because as I'm racing, I'm so focused. I don't even, I don't think about the pain. I don't feel it. But once the race is over and I come down pit road and I have to get out of my car and we like climb through the windows. So when that happens, my team knows everything and they are usually right there and they'll help me get out of my car, help me take my gear off. And we have infield care centers, which is a hospital right on site at every racetrack. And they also know everything. So they usually like to check me out, make sure everything's good. And I'll do a checkup after a race to make sure there's nothing too crazy going on and that it's safe for me to go home and just rest by myself.
Thanks, Natalie. A question came in from Melody regarding how fast you drive on the track. And then do you want to just share a little bit about how many laps you actually do on those tracks and then how fast you go as well?
Okay, so it depends on the racetrack for both of those questions. At Daytona, we're probably going almost 200 miles an hour. The fastest I've ever gone was about 202 miles an hour, and that was at Daytona. And then for laps, it changes also. If the track's really big, usually the lap count is shorter. If the track is a short track, we usually have multiple laps, like around 200 to 300 laps, but they go by miles usually. So sometimes the lap count can be a little weird, but to put that in a way you'd understand with time is the race will go from about 2 hours to 3.5. And that just depends if there's a lot of accidents or red flags where they have to stop the race and clean up the track. So when the longer the race is and the more cautions there are, the worse I am after the race with having any pain or any symptoms. So if the race just goes green flag and there's not a lot of accidents that they have to clean up, the race is usually shorter. It's usually on around 2 hours, and then I feel a lot better.
Exactly. The shorter race probably helps you for sure. Just for the kids that are on the call, so 200 miles an hour is about 3 times as fast as your mom and dad's go on the highway. Roughly most of our mile is about 65 miles an hour on a highway. So about 3 times that fast. So when you think your mom and dad are going fast, just think about Natalie going 3 times that fast, round and round in a circle, which is really, really cool and crazy with cars around her going that fast as well. So
yeah, and we're inches from each other, side by side and bumper to bumper. So if you make the tiniest little mistake, you'll bump into each other.
Which is crazy, Natalie. So a couple of good questions regarding, I'll just jump into the one around from Lisa about how do you deal with emotional aspects of chronic illness, and how have you learned to deal with that over through high school and then after high school, et cetera? What tips do you have for that?
Emotionally, that's where it's the hardest. And that's where you really have to remember that you can only control so much in your life. So you always need to focus on the things you can control. You know, staying hydrated, eating healthy, and staying active and resting your body. Those are the things you can control. As long as you're being your best self in those areas, whatever's going to happen that you can't control is going to happen no matter what. So as long as you just control that, what you can control, you'll have your best result. And once I started living by that mentally, I started being a lot better, but I still have those days. Today was one of those days, honestly. Like I said earlier, I was getting ready and I didn't even have the energy to brush my hair or get dressed today. It was not a good day. And mentally, I was like thinking so far into the future, like, well, what if one day I want to start a family? Like, will I even be able to have energy to take care of kids? Like so many thoughts were going through my head, and it made me start to freak out. And I had to remember, like, those are all hypothetical, that they aren't happening right now. I just need to be my best self today, and I'll have my best result at the end of the day.
Such good advice. So good. A couple interesting fun questions just came in around, did you play Mario Kart as a kid? And have you ever crashed on the racetrack?
I love Mario Kart.
Awesome.
I definitely played that game as a kid, and I still do every once in a while. And yes, I've had major accidents. I've been on fire, lots of different things.
Crazy.
Nothing scared me yet.
Oh, and some other questions. Someone asked, did you have memory problems? Like, do you forget things like taking your medication, or forget things day to day here and there? Do you have any memory issues that you have? Had you experienced that?
I would say brain fog for sure. And that definitely comes with fatigue, and it comes with an autoimmune disease in general. That's a symptom. Forgetting medication, that is scary, especially if it's something that if you take 2 of on accident, it can be dangerous. I keep my medication by the coffee pot. So as soon as I make a coffee for my boyfriend, who's from Minnesota, as soon as I make him a coffee, I take my medication. So I know if he has his coffee, I've taken my medication. That's how I time it out. So I just do something with it so I know. And then when I travel a lot for racing, I like to keep it right in the bathroom. And right after I'm done brushing my teeth, I take my medication when I'm gone. So I know if my teeth are brushed, I took my medication.
Another question, do you have challenges falling asleep ever? Do you just go right to sleep? Do you have any insomnia issues?
Sleep, for sure. That is difficult. Sometimes it's hard for me to fall asleep. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't fall back asleep. And then sometimes I just wake up super early around like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'll have so much pain from that night of sleep that I can't fall back asleep, and I just have to lay there. So sleep issues, yes, I still don't know how to deal with it or what to do to make it better, other than I just keep trying.
Mhm. So some questions regarding, do you have an Instagram or a Snapchat that you want to share with everybody as well? Because I know some of the kids want to follow you on that.
Yes, I do. I do have an Instagram, Natalie Decker, and I do have the blue check mark by my name. So make sure there's a lot of like fan pages and stuff. So I wonder if I could pull it up so you guys can see the account. This is what it looks like, if you can see it. That's my profile. So you can follow me on Instagram. I do Twitch. I don't know if any of you are into the streaming and gaming. I love playing video games, and I do my iRacing simulator and I stream it live. And my name on there is just Natalie Decker Official. So if you want to follow me on any of that, you can.
That's awesome. And then someone suggested you coming to a live conference down the road, and someone did put your Instagram in, by the way, into the chat room. But we would love to have a future conference for the kids to see your race car and see you live for sure. Do you have a race day coming up? When's your next race day? When do you expect that to be?
I do have a couple races coming up. I'll be racing October 30th in Martinsville, Virginia in the Xfinity Series. And then next month, I will be racing. September 9th through the 12th. There's a track north of me on the East Coast, and it's called Watkins Glen, kind of close to New York, if you're familiar with that area. And I will be racing a sports car, an Audi R8. It is the coolest car in the whole entire world.
Is that a road race at Watkins Glen?
Yes,
or
it's a road race. The left and rights, and then the one in Martinsville is an oval.
Awesome. That is awesome. So Watkins Glen in September, and October is Martinsville. And you surely can watch for Natalie also on our Arthritis Facebook page. And I also want to thank Natalie for also being an amazing arthritis warrior, but also for using the Vim app. I know for young adults, we will be coming out with a JA version of something down the road, so stay tuned for that. But for kids 18 or older, we do have the Vim app, and we appreciate you being a champion for that as well, Natalie. And just all the amazing posts. And some of you, all you kids might not know, but it's not often that celebrities come forward and step up to share their stories, because it's just a challenge for them with their career. And Natalie has not only stepped up with her story, but shared her inspiring story nonstop on every social media platform and in the media. We truly, really, Natalie, that is just so impressive. Really, thank you. I do want to leave you with a few comments. Do you have things you want to leave us with, some thoughts about how to just, I can't stress enough, knowing NASCAR, how hard it is to be a female in that sport, but even more so, no matter what your dreams are for the kids that are on this call, no matter if it's to be an author, a teacher, an astronaut, what advice would you leave with them to make sure that they know that anything's possible even after a JA diagnosis?
The best advice I have for you, because I still feel so young and I still feel like I'm learning every single day, which you probably will for the rest of your life. But the best advice I can give you, and it's so important, is have a good support group around you, because you're going to have that goal, whatever it is. Mine was a NASCAR driver. If you want to be a teacher or an astronaut, like you said, you're going to have the days that are just horrible. You want to give up, and you're going to want to quit, and you're going to not remember why you're doing it or why you want it in the first place. And that support group will be able to help you and remind you, look, this is your dream, this is your goal, and remind you why you want to do it. And they'll always have the best interest for you, because there's so many people out in the world that won't have your best interest at heart. So if you have that good support group around you, they'll always be there for you. They'll always have that best interest for you, and they'll help you keep growing and get into your goal. And I truly believe if I didn't have my parents and my brother, my aunt, my grandparents, all of these people around me helping me through my RA, through my racing career, through high school, then moving out and living on my own, all of these different journeys, if I didn't have them, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today, because they have helped me grow so much. What
great advice. The support network is so important, from your family and a teacher, anyone that can help you continue to follow your dreams is so, so important. And of course, if you need an extended family, we have an amazing JA Connect group groups that you can join, as well as other JA kids that are involved in so many of our things, from camps to conferences, JA days in your local community. If you want to start one, either a Connect group or a JA day in your area, please contact the Arthritis Foundation. I just want to end, Megan, age 9, just said, I'm like one of your biggest fans and have always wanted to meet you. And hopefully, Megan, we can get you and Natalie to a conference next year and you'll get to meet face to face as well.
Please, let's make it happen. Please.
So I appreciate, Natalie. I know we're going to go into game night, so I'm going to turn it back to Jen and Shane. We're going to send you off to game night. And I know myself and the other staff of the Arthritis Foundation, including Ann Palmer, our CEO, will see you tomorrow as well at the opening session. So I know Ann's watching tonight as well. So Natalie, I can't thank you enough. So many comments. I hope you get to read the chat as we wrap up, because I know everyone's sending their love to you as well. So thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. Have a fun rest of your night. Thank you so much.
And I'll turn it back to Jen and Shane. We'll see everyone over the weekend at the conference. So Jen and Shane.
Thank you so much, Steve, and thank you, Natalie. You are a true inspiration to all of us. JA family, we hope you stick around and join us for some family-friendly competition this evening. Take a moment to check out the game options in the conference app to learn more and locate the room links for logging in. Before we end the session and break for family game rooms, don't forget that sessions start tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern and 9:30 a.m. Pacific. You do not want to miss our keynote sessions tomorrow.
And then don't miss the Live Yes with Arthritis podcast that is dropping on Tuesday, July 27th. It's where NASCAR driver Natalie Decker talks to our podcast hosts, Rebecca and Julie, about living and racing with JA and how she stays in control. Go to your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to the Live Yes with Arthritis podcast today. The Natalie Decker Driven to Beat Arthritis episode will be dropping this Tuesday, July 27th. Tomorrow's theme day is Amplify Your Favorite Decade. So we encourage you to post a pic of your family dressed up in your favorite decade. Be sure to use the hashtag #StrongerThanJA so we can all see. Enjoy your evening, and we will see you in the game rooms. Check the app for links and details about game room options.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great game night.